Yeah, so you guys played me that jam track, and I had to figure it out quickly. So I just quickly figured out it was in the key of E, and it was mainly an E7 chord. It had like a 4-bar form, I believe, 3 bars of E, and then a bar of like an A7 sus and a B7 sus. So really, I knew, the bulk of it was the E7. So I had to use all of my E7 vocabulary, I guess, as much as I have over that one chord, that being the main focus. So one thing that I would recommend to any player, and it's true with any chord, but especially with the dominant 7 chord, it's kind of one of your meat and potatoes chords. So you're going to encounter this chord in any kind of music you play, whether it be rock, blues, jazz, country. You're going to play this chord all day long. So I would map out on the guitar every shape, every arpeggio shape of a dominant 7 chord, in this case an E7 chord. So the notes we're dealing with here are E, G sharp, B, and D, which are the 1, 3, 5, and flat 7 of the major scale. So I would map them out on individual positions, 7 different positions, diagonal shapes, and also on single strings is another great thing to do. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to play through all the 7 shapes of the dominant 7 chord, the arpeggio, just so you can see what it looks and sounds like. Here we go. So that was all 7 shapes of the E dominant 7 chord. And here are a couple diagonal shapes also. So right there you're covering a lot of ground just by knowing your chord tones. You can improvise just playing chord tones. Now it's going to get pretty boring if you only use chord tones, so obviously you want to mix it up with other things. But these are usually, chord tones are usually the foundation to melodies, so usually where a melody ends and begins, usually on a chord tone, on a strong downbeat. So one other thing, a piece of vocabulary that I was using, a scale I was using was Mixolydian. Now Mixolydian is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and flat 7 of the major scale. So in this case we're using E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, and D. In this scale also, it's good to learn this in every position. One wrong note there, but you get the idea. So that right there gives you a lot to play with over an E7 chord. And I would also learn a couple different diagonal shapes of Mixolydian. You can learn a couple diagonal shapes. Diagonal shapes are great because they can really help you maneuver from one position to the next. A lot of players get stuck in playing in boxes, playing in one position. And diagonal shapes really help you to get out of that, to get you out of that box. Another really great thing to do is just to play this scale on one string. I think we look at the instrument differently. We look at the intervallic relationship differently when we do it on one string as opposed to a box shape. So visually, I think that really helps us out to play the scale on one string. And I notice a lot of players tend to play more melodic when they only play on one string rather than in a box shape. So that's what I would recommend, is learn the scales, the scale of Mixolydian and the arpeggio, you know, learn it diagonally, learn it in positions, learn it on each individual string. And one other thing you can do is you can take say the diagonal arpeggio that I did, and you can put chromatics in between the notes. And this will help you, I think, get used to using some chromatics. So I'm just going to take that diagonal, I'm going to take the diagonal E7 arpeggio, and I'm just going to put in chromatics in between the chord tones. So it's going to sound like this. You can also mix it up and not use all the chromatics, but maybe only some of them, and it would sound like maybe like this. So there I only use the chromatics in between the third and the fifth. And but you could also use the chromatic only between the flat 7 and the root, and it would sound like this. So that might help to get you used to using some chromatics, you know. Chromatics, think of chroma, it's the prefix for color, you know, so chromatics are color tones, really. But I would stress the main thing is to learn your chord tones. Your chord tones are, you know, your anchors, they're your foundation, they're usually the notes you want to target. So I hope this information helps to get you going on playing over an E7 chord.